Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Cuban Libertarian. Today we have a very special guest, and I'll read you the synopsis of the book that he wrote, which is called Espantado de todo, me refugio en Trump, or in English, Scared of Everything, I Take Refuge in Trump. Scared of Everything, I Take Refuge in Trump is a journal of countercultural chronicles that constitutes the radical revenge of an author who escaped Cuban Castroism only to end up trapped in North American academic Castroism. That is, the tyranny of the politically correct and leftist anti-Trump nonsense. The title of this volume is a parody of the Cuban national hero José Martí, this man right here, in a note that he dedicated from exile to his son called Ismaelillo, son, scared of everything, I take refuge in you. Scared of everything, I take refuge in Trump is not a novel, but it is a book that has an episodic romantic structure, where the main character is precisely one Orlando Luis Pardo Lazo, our guest, of extreme lyrics and tender nostalgia for his lost homeland, together with his fundamentalist and happy childhood. Pardo Lazo's style is a kind of labyrinth of language, where each word pretends to be a worse provocation than the previous one. Everyone, please welcome the illustrious Orlando Luis Pardo Lazo. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, my friend. It's my pleasure, my privilege to join your show, your program, your channel. I don't know how to call it, your TV.
Well, now we're a little bit of everything, I suppose. Yes, it's my vlog, I would say maybe, or
Your vlog.
media company, because we're all entrepreneurs, right?
Yes. Well, it's my privilege, and thank you so much for choosing Espantado de todo, me refugio en Trump. Something like scared of everything. I take refuge in the T word. I would not pronounce that word anymore in this program. The T word, we call it now. Okay.
Professor, before we start, I do want to highlight the plight of a fellow Cuban. I will share screen right now for the fundraiser that is taking place at the moment. And then you can also explain what the situation is.
Yes, yes. I mean, thank you very much for that. It's a very kind gesture. We have a friend that many of your audience, your readers may know, Rolando Pulido. Rolando Pulido is a Cuban designer. He left with 18 years during the Mariel boat lift, 1980. He landed in the land of freedom alone, and he made a career as a designer, a very successful career, even working for TV, etc., for many cafes, bars. And he had seen in the last 10, 15 years, he has been working free, part of his as a part-time with a Cuban dissidents, blogging movement, a hip hop movement, with many people in Cuba. He was helping us with by giving us images, renewing somehow the image of the Cuban dissidents. You know, it was kind of a Cuban flag, and that's it. And Rolando brought colors, modernity, playfulness to the Cuban dissidents. And now he's in trouble. He is in serious medical condition. He is in a hospital. Probably will need to go to a hospice in New York. And the most terrible part is that Rolando is alone because he lives alone. And in the hospitals and hospices, they don't allow, because of the COVID crisis, they don't allow anybody to visit him. So we are getting in touch with him using, of course, the telephone and somehow some nurses. We have found some Cuban nurses that are helping us to get in touch with him. But he feels pretty isolated and he cannot walk. He is very weak. And his lack of pulmonary respiratory capacity. And we are very worried that he will need real help, I would say, high quality physical therapy to fully recover, to feeling alive again and gaining again the spirit of and the desire to live. So please, guys, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, everybody watching this and they want to help, we have almost collected the 5,000 that we started asking just during the new year, and maybe we can raise it to 6,000, because this is emergency money. It's already being sent to him, fundraiser, for a Rolando Pulido to walk again, para que Rolando Pulido camine de nuevo. Is allowing us to take the funds immediately and send it to kind of a committee of friends that are trying to help and hire the best possible services besides the hospital services that he's receiving. But we're really worried, and I think that he will feel, he's already feeling that many people, many Cubans especially, haven't forgotten Rolando, and we love him. He was very provocative, like me, like many people. And you see this image traveling the metro, probably the line number 7 with José Martí and Nefertiti and all these, mixing imaginaries. And that's exactly what we're doing in Espantado de Todo, Me Refugio en Trump, this book that we are discussing today. So please, any solidarity with Rolando Pulido, and I express his gratitude, his gratefulness to you, Riquet, because of this possibility of sharing the campaign here. Thank you.
Of course, no problem. It's always good to help a fellow Cuban. And I've also shared the link to the fundraiser in the comments. Alrighty, so let's get started. Before we actually get into the book, I would like to give the audience a little back history on yourself. So from what I read, you were raised, maybe even born in Lawton, Havana. Is that correct?
Born, raised, and lived my whole life there during 40 years in the same house in the outskirts of Havana, Lawton. We call it Lawton. In English, it would be like Lawton. And it used to be a very beautiful, special neighborhood in Havana. That there are many groups in Facebook about Lawton. The nostalgia for Lawton is unbelievable, but it's very deteriorated, and I would say in total decadence as a neighborhood and as a human community also.
Gotcha. Now, you were born in the 70s. In which year?
1971, December 10th.
December 10th, 1971. So then, when did you come to the United States?
I came to America on Tuesday, March the 5th, 2013. And I remember that very well, because when I flew from Havana, everything was, Cuban, the Cuban life. And then when I landed in Miami, suddenly I heard everybody shouting in the plane, he died, he died, he died. Oh my God, I'm going back to Cuba. Fidel Castro is dead. The point is that if you remember, March 5th, 2013, 4:30 p.m., 4:44 p.m. exactly, was the moment that the death of Hugo Chavez was announced. So I left Cuba with Hugo Chavez kind of in a hospital, and then I landed, and the press didn't want to know anything about me or about the Cuban dissidents anymore. They were only asking what is going to happen now in Cuba, blah, blah, blah. So the death of Hugo Chavez completely occupied, the media and everything. And
right.
But I confess, I was kind of scared in the plane, or shocked a little, like, who died,
Right.
Well, it was Hugo Chavez. I completely forgot that he was dying for a month, and I thought it was Fidel Castro, the first, maybe the second or third or fourth of the death of Fidel Castro.
That's right. For those of you that are not aware, there, I believe maybe the state, the agents or the Minin or whatever, they always put out these rumors that Fidel has died, or that he's almost about to die, to maybe judge what the social reaction will be. And that's happened on several times.
I must confess, I was very active on Twitter at that time. Now I deleted Twitter. I am anti-Twitter, pro-vaccine, but anti-Twitter. Okay? And so I deleted my Twitter, OLPL, but at that time I was very active. I must confess, maybe I was the author of some of those rumors. It was not on purpose. It was my paranoia connecting the dots. And I said, I think this time. But then when it really happened, November 2016, I didn't see it coming. I must confess I didn't see it coming.
We're gonna talk about that day and what happened at the university.
Oh
And
my.
was it a Chilean professor?
Well, the book says she was a Chilean professor, because I am trying also to take some
Okay.
care, protect her identity, protect my pocket. I don't want
Right,
to
right.
be demanded. But it was a professor from South America that was teaching class, and then that day she says clearly to the classroom, today the greatest man in the history of Latin America has passed, and our life from now on are a little less, I mean, like a less meaningful, with less meaning, no, our
Right.
lives. And she ended up crying, no, and I respect the pain of the others, but
Wow.
I wonder, no, when with polemic political figures, especially political figures, no, if that's allowed to happen, no, let's say if it's a politician from Israel or from, no, I don't know, dies, or if Donald Trump dies, if Donald Trump dies, I wonder if professors are allowed to say, well, some of you may like it, some of you may not, but this is a, no, I don't think that would be the case. And suddenly she was not even asking. She was not even asking about that. She was teaching us, using our money to teach us that the greatest man in Latin American history died. Maybe he is the greatest man in Latin American history after all. So we can talk about that.
Great in a way, sure.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you then. So you came to America when you were 42 years old?
41, because yes, my birthday is in December. 41, and to become 42, yes. Quite whole life.
Wow. Yeah, I must say, I mean, it's similar to my parents. They also came over in their late 30s, early 40s. What was that like when you got here to Miami, not here, but to Miami, and then you went to St. Louis after how much time?
No, there were several years. I mean, I landed in Miami, yes, but only for a night.
Mm-hmm.
I was invited together with Giovanni Sanchez. It was the first time that the Cuban government was allowing dissidents and in general Cuban people to travel without the exit permit. That kind of, apartheid, migratory apartheid was. So there was a migratory reform. We were allowed to travel. There was an event, a congress taking place at NYU, New York University, with Giovanni Sanchez and me. And we were there for 3-4 days. Then I went to Washington, D.C. for another convention, then back to Pittsburgh. And I decided little by little to stay 3 more months, take an extension of the visa. And suddenly 1 year passed by. And, my
Right, you were able
was,
to.
I'm going for the green card and have never returned to Cuba. So only after being in Pittsburgh, compiling an anthology of Cuban literature, Generation Year Zero, only after living, after being in different universities, collaborating with some NGOs like the Center for a Free Cuba in Washington, D.C., some NGOs in Miami also. But I haven't lived in Miami, only for a few weeks or days. So Miami is like a mystery for me. It's my place, it's my ghetto, it's my fake Cuba. And so, I walk into a mall and then I hear, oh my gosh, there was this accident and people, and I said, where? In Calle Ocho? No, they are talking of Galeano Street in Havana. There was an accident and they are talking like it's happening right here. No? And at some point, I have like an emotional, not dilemma, but even pain with Cuba. And I need most of the time that I am living in America, I need to be aware that I am not in Cuba anymore, because it really affects me. And so at some point in Miami, I start feeling I'm still living in Cuba. But then I realized, but it's not Cuba. And then I become very sad. No, walking into my friend's house and feeling that they are living like a ghost house, a ghost life.
Right.
But at the same time, it's the real life. But my mind is a little shaky. I need to be careful with my mind. And I prefer to be, so I have been in Washington, D.C., New York, Pittsburgh, and now St. Louis, Missouri at Washington University doing my PhD in comparative literature.
Wow, amazing. That's right. I read on your Wikipedia that you have a bachelor's in biochemistry from Cuba.
Yes, I graduated in biochemistry in 1994, and then I worked for the Council of State, because the Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology belongs, formally, economically, to the Council of the State. And yes, I had to go through a number of interviews and things. I was never a member of the communist organization, so my case was a little And eventually I was hired there with many of my friends. I worked as a molecular biologist in secret projects of vaccines, recombinant DNA vaccines and things like that. And then when I was kicked out, because in 1999, my life is kind of a tragic comedy, I sent an email. I was trying to find out about the professional migration to Canada. Maybe you know that program. Canada accepts professionals. You need to have a bank account. You need to have a profession. You need to have a career. And they are accepting skilled or highly skilled migrants. No, Canada, blames America of not accepting immigrants. But Canada accepts migrants if they have $10,000 in a bank account and they are professional. No? And I was asking about that, and my emails, the mailbox was being monitored like every mailbox at the Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology, and only by asking, because of asking, I was expelled. I was expelled from the center, and that was painful, no? Because yes, maybe I wanted to emigrate, but then I just quit my job, and that's it. And I didn't have that chance. I was kind of, humiliated in a humiliating way, expelled from the center. My friends were very sad. I was very sad, and I had to reprogram myself. But that's how I became a writer. So I owe it to the state security.
Wow. Some people may not know that when you're a professional in Cuba, you basically belong to the government. They feel like you are maybe an indentured servant of sorts, where you have to pay back the education, the free education that they gave you. Of course, with the wages that they don't pay you, that you're paying that back hundreds of times. So now, when you said that,
let me tell you just a footnote about that. I have a friend that decided to travel abroad and stay abroad, and he traveled as a biochemist, from the Center on Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology. His wife, his two little girls, 6 years, 5 years, remain in Cuba. Well, he was punished almost with a whole decade, 10 years. His family was not allowed to travel abroad. They were hostages. At the same time of Elian and everything, they were hostages. And it was very painful. That family was destroyed. He couldn't enjoy his two daughters, only because he was exactly like me, a person working in biotechnology, and he decided to stay abroad. And then the family was a hostage of the Cuban government. So little by little, when I was there, I started to understand things that when you just graduate from the university, you want to work, you want to be the best, you want to read American magazines. And in biotechnology, in the Center on Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology, we were getting those magazines, no embargo, no blockade. We were getting them through a third country on a monthly basis. And for a young graduate, it was like a blessing. Oh my God, these Americans. And we even had direct correspondence with American scientists. And by the way, American scientists were helping a lot, especially if they knew you were a young man in Cuba. They were sending information, they were sending books. So I started to realize, is that America so mean to Cuba? Who is mean to who? And eventually it was the state security, that got like a spotlight on us. And I was working for them, and they were already knowing that I was their enemy. And I didn't even know I was an enemy of them at that time.
When did you realize that you had become an enemy?
I think that, in a sense, the idea that my generation never felt like belonging to the system. I wanted to be a biochemist, for example, but I didn't feel like being a member of any political organization or thing like that. Never went to these rallies. The 90s were a very dismembering time in Cuba. And so I never felt like that. But when I start writing, somehow I made mine the idea of Ricardo Piglia. He's a novelist who was a novelist from Argentina, that he says, every single state, they create a fiction, a national fiction, so that the country comes together. It's imaginary. There is no such a thing. But the role of the real intellectual should be to be critical to that narrative. You may agree or not, but suddenly I started loving that, being critical to those narrative of, unity. In the case of Cuba, unity, the enemy within, the enemy outside, the fear of difference. I started to feel that's poor. That I don't like. But I never engaged like previous generations, that really believed that Marxism was kind of a scientific, theory, and I never engaged with that, maybe because of my generation. It was kind of funny, kind of you read the manual, you fulfill the test, and at the end of the semester, and that's it, no? So we were maybe the first transition generation, kind of just not so much involved, no? Previous generation, my cousins that were older than me, they were dreaming to go to German Democratic Republic, and they were not communist, but
Right.
that was the outcome, the normal progress development for a good student to study engineering at the German Democratic Republic. And if you're a musician, maybe you can go to Lomonosov, but who knows? I mean, to Tchaikovsky Institute. So that idea, when I was starting to become a student in the university, everything collapsed. And what we got was Fidel telling us, he who doesn't jumps is a Yankee, and things like that, no?
Right. If you don't jump when he says jump, then you're a Yankee.
Yeah, but that was a real slogan. I don't know if you know. It was chanted in the street, and Fidel jumped in the street during one of the parades.
No, yes. I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
I'm going to say it in Spanish.
Please.
El que no salte no es Yankee. El que no salte no es Yankee. And Fidel was there. Roberto Robaina, at that time, head of the Young Communist League, later, chancellor of Cuba, later. He got into disgrace and was brought down. And at that time was 31 y Palante, 31 years and going and counting.
Right.
That was the age of the revolution. And el que no salte no es Yankee. He who doesn't jumps is a Yankee. It's kind of a funny thing somehow to bring together the idea that the nation is in opposition to the Yankees, and the Yankees were trying to destroy the nation.
Well, I mean, it also sounds a little bit like neuro-linguistic programming, when you give instructions and then everybody like follows the instructions on cue. That's very, I think, malicious.
Politics of language, yes.
Yes. He unfortunately, he had a terrible but great intellect. That is my opinion.
Yes.
So now you're in America. You've traveled. You've been here for a year, and you decide to get your green card. And you start to, I imagine you applied to the University of St. Louis, Missouri?
No, I was nominated. I was very lucky. Many people knew me in Cuba, not because I am Orlando Luis Pardo, but because we were part of a blogging movement. And at that time, there were not so many communicators in Cuba, not so many channels. And we were, a few. And so many universities were inviting me to give some lecture talks. And a professor here at Washington University told me that a program was open and that she was nominating me. She's a person from Poland, and she was part of the Solidarność movement, etc. And she was telling me she was nominating me for that program, that I only needed to accept it. It was kind of granted to me, and I took it. I took the opportunity. I had never been in St. Louis, Missouri. I had never been in a PhD program. So I didn't technically apply or in a sense of, competing with other candidates. But I had to, of course, to accept and provide some information, like to prove that I was a graduate from university,
right,
and things like that. So I was really privileged, and I feel very, very grateful, humbled by that. I mean, not I don't feel like, well, I deserve. No, it was like very lucky. I'm trying to do my best now in the PhD.
How much do you have left until you finish?
1 or 2 years. I think it will take 2 years. To really write their dissertation with more time. They are paying me like an extra year. I'm already in 5th year, but they are willing to pay an extra year. Student stipend, no more than that. And right now I'm also teaching for them. I have been teaching for them for several years. So that's the way of somehow that I pay for the grants that they give me.
Right.
But
what are you teaching?
Everything a little. I mean, in the Romance language department, I ask not to teach Spanish because I don't know Spanish. It's my language, so I don't know. How can I explain what is a subjunctive, indicative? I just speak my language and make a mess of it. No? So I was asking, may I not teach that language called Spanish that maybe I don't know so well? And I have been teaching in Spanish and English, but for example, history of Hispanic literature, Latin American literature, and some more specific topics like Spanish Inquisition. So I have some experience with Inquisition myself. And, and now this semester, I will be teaching a very interesting course that is about exiled writers. And so I will be bringing
Amazing.
bringing up the topic of Cuban exiles and also Chileans exile, the Spanish Republican exile. So both sides of the spectrum. I think it will be good for me to talk about that and try to bring some ideas to the students.
Seems like you have a full plate. I also saw on social media, correct me if I'm wrong, that you also had a daughter. You have a family now. Is that correct?
Yes, I have a baby. I mean, it's a personal, complicated situation,
Okay.
but I have a baby, and the baby is a blessing by God, by nature. Her name is Luna Isabel,
Okay.
and she is 7 months old.
Wow.
Well, she lives a little far away from here, and now in these kind of times of social distancing, is complicated, but it's a blessing, and so I'm very happy about that. By the way, my dad, when I was born, my dad was 52, and in a
5'2".
way,
Wow.
this little baby is my first child, and I'm not so young. I'm almost the age of my dad, so I am repeating the biography or completing the biography of my dad. Who knows?
Yeah, I know. I noticed that as I get older, I also start becoming a little bit my father for sure.
Even when we don't know or we deny it or
Yeah,
we
even when we try
that,
not to.
we end up moving the hands like our parents.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's correct.
Mhm.
So, let me then get into the actual nitty gritty of this book. Here it is. Hold on. Oh,
Here
we're
it
doing
is.
it at the same time. Excellent. Yes. And this is, by the way, oh my God, that is a
Rolando
marble.
Pulido. Rolando Pulido design. This is these marbles in Cuba.
Mhm.
When these marbles had 3 colors, most of them had only 1 color. A blue, red, yellow, white.
Right.
That I remember.
Yes.
But when they had 3 colors, we called them cubanitos.
Right.
And we play like this. Usually, if you beat the opponent, you get the marbles.
Yes.
And we call the cubanitos. So trying to create something related to Cuba. Eventually, Rolando Pulido came up with this idea. There is a black book, Espantado de Todo, Me Refugio en Trump. And there is also another white book that the name is Del Clarín Escuchad el Silencio, which is an appropriation from the national anthem in Cuba, from the fanfare, listen to the silence, or from the clarinet. I don't know, from the listen to the no clarinet.
Like the trumpet. I think it will be like a trumpet.
From the trumpet, like the war trumpet. No, listen to the silence instead of the sound as the national anthem claims. And it's the same cover but white and the same marble. Somehow it's a metaphor of Cubanity, of Cubanness, that is not that you need to be a little inside the culture to get it. Yes. Otherwise, it's just a marble and means nothing. No, so I like that kind of connections.
I must confess that as I read the book, there were not an insignificant amount of things that I didn't get because I wasn't raised into adulthood in Cuba. I came when I was 11. But I still got something that you mentioned earlier, and that is you feel like a ghost sometimes when you're here, when you're in an exile. Can you speak a little bit about that feeling?
Yes, I mean, I am very impressed in, reality impressed me a lot, no? And so United States of America, I remember dreams that I had with the United States of America as a child, no? Letters arriving and then me visiting and things like that. And I make like a myth out of things, no? And suddenly when I, in a kind of vulgar way, I got a plane, landed, I was already like famous and talking to the press. And this is what is coming to America. It's just a real contrast. I start to feel a little of unreality. No? Right. And so little by little, I walk the cities, I walk San Luis, and I swear I have the map of Havana. And I orientate myself, position myself in the city because I know that Central West End is kind of El Vedado, and then going to the university city is more like Lawton and Luyanón, and then we have the Forest Park, which is like the Almendares Park. Believe it or not, I have come to realize that I still live in a map that is in Cuba. And I am trying to get rid of that. I am trying to move forward to really believe that I am here in America. But suddenly my writing, my memory, what comes through me as a medium when I start writing, even if I am dealing with political correctness and things that are happening in America right now, I still go back to memories of my childhood, people that died, many decades ago, and I wonder if writing is a way of saying farewell to the world and somehow become a ghost, and maybe prepare your way to die, to pass, no, to completely become a ghost and then leave the writing after you, whatever the writing is. Maybe we'll get old very soon. Maybe we'll be unreadable. Maybe we'll be forbidden in the next 4 years administration. Who knows?
um, to follow up on that, what is your relationship with las epístolas, like the letters? Because each chapter seems to me like a brief letter
Yes.
that you're writing maybe for yourself or for someone else. And then you just mentioned that you receive letters from America and other
Yes.
places. So tell me about that aspect of it.
Yeah, I'm not so aware of that, but obviously it happened. Suddenly, correspondence, epistolas, epistolary, I don't know in English, like the letters, no? It seems that it was like a minor genre or something from the 19th century, maybe even 18th century, but suddenly trying to break through the writing and trying to find a new form, it seems that I have discovered an old form. And so trying to be in the vanguard, maybe now I am retrograde, it doesn't matter, no? But yes, it's like a letter that I'm standing, like a bottle tossed to the sea.
Yes.
And, I feel, I'm very happy that bottle hit me next to you, because the perception is there is no reader for this book. This is a world that has been sunken, my memories, the love that I feel for the 80s in Cuba, the love that I feel for the concerts, the love that I feel for the first love in Havana, for memories of the 70s even that I have, and then whatever impression I that pain, no, that sometimes makes me behave like a harsh person or a tough person, but there is a pain behind, a vulnerability behind, or under, no, and then all that I have the impression there is no reader that could fully understand this. The literature is moving into another territory, not to mention ethnic literature, like guilt literature. Everybody's guilty of writing. Everybody's guilty of their privilege. And there are things that you cannot say anymore, no? And I feel that I was trying to find a frame or a way of saying that. And maybe the letter to myself, if I talk to myself, if I am autistically writing, maybe I have a chance to say whatever I want to say to myself. Because also I am pretty isolated here in San Luis, and it's difficult to speak in Spanish, and it's difficult I am afraid of losing the brightness of speaking in Cuban. No? I am afraid of that.
Cuban is that different language from Spanish. All the other Latinos tell me that when I speak over here.
Yes, it is.
Please, to follow up on that comment, tell me about what you noticed in your apartment building as a PhD student, about maybe the atomized lives of the people that lived in that building. They get up every day, go in, go out, and you see the little lights in their windows. That really, it transmitted to me a feeling of, like you said, isolation, of loneliness. Talk to me about that. About that feeling.
In Cuba, I was hating my neighbors and loving them, no?
Right.
But my house didn't end with the walls and the doors of my house. 3 a.m. in the morning, it happened many times in my life. My mother was not feeling well. You go to the house of your neighbor or several neighbors, knock, knock, knock. Oh, hey, this is Orlando. I need your car. I need you to take my mother to the hospital. That is a common experience. I'm not trying to say that's the way it should be. At the same time, my telephone, my landline was the only telephone, 2 or 3 telephones in the whole block. And neighbors were coming to my place to call at any time, at 11:30 p.m. Sometimes I got an international call. Would you be able to call my friend Andres? Is the son of Andres? Andres, 2 blocks away. Yes, I wait in the line. No, on the line, don't worry. And then Orlando Luis running, getting the old man come to talk to. So that dynamics has been completely lost. I don't know my neighbors. I have seen them. Hello. They are very nice, but I don't know them. I see their names. I read their names in the mailbox, trying to invent imagine a biography for them, but I don't think nobody's doing that. No? Maybe they would think I am a kind of spy or something. And then I feel so. I started to feel these walls are invisible. I am sleeping like a zoom out alone in the desert. I can break that. I can throw this book through the window right now. The glass is smashed. Well, somebody will call the cops. That's it.
That's it.
Nobody will say, Orlando, are you okay? Or my friend, or hey boy, are you okay? No. Crystal, maybe there is some domestic violence, call the cops. So the dynamic is very different. I'm not criticizing that. Maybe that's the way for the future, for respect, civility, blah, 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 individuality. But I miss the deep sense of belonging to a very integrated community. Sometimes we were fighting, so good things and bad things. But, I could walk in Lawton and feel like 3 or 4 or 5, 6 blocks before arriving my home, I'm home. And the dogs and cats, sometimes cats from different houses were coming to me to say hello in the middle of the street as I was walking to my place. No? Imagine walking in America and the dogs free to run to you and nobody's asking about a vaccine to a dog or anything like that. I don't want to sound like a barbarian, but I was a barbarian and I'm trying to transmit that experience. Suddenly the citizen emotionally misses the barbarian. But in rational terms, I am very happy to be in America. No? But the citizen misses the barbarian. Maybe we can summarize it like that.
Then what do you think about this beer bug crisis this past year and the quarantine? How has that impacted you?
It hasn't impacted me so much because I was in quarantine already, no? But yes, it has changed the face of America. I teach also kids. I teach chess to kids online in sometimes, and you can see that they are very eager and anxious, and everything happens in front of the computer. It's a blessing. Suddenly there are programs like you, and the dialogue is being reestablished. We need to use that in a good way. But at the same time, I'm teaching online also in the university. Everything happens online, no? And I'm trying to be very strict with the quarantine because of my baby and everything and my own health, no? And it's a strange feeling. It's kind of uncanny, but it didn't affect me so much because I was already spending a lot of time at home or walking alone or walking in the forest park or sharing with one person.
Right. Do you play chess still?
I play chess. I love chess since I was a kid. And I mean, I'm not a professional chess player, but now I have like a license from the chess club to teach. And I think I teach pretty well, no? But that chess has that kind of thing that you don't need to be a good player to teach well. And sometimes grandmasters, which are, magnificent, they don't have the skill to teach because they are already like, a super performer, and suddenly they don't deal and they don't use their time to teach those who are beginners. So I am
pedagogy. I think I'm gonna venture and say that's a word. It's a different skill from actually performing. So now I'm going to shift gears and I'm going to read. Let me see the first 3 paragraphs from the chapter entitled "Black Trash."
Oh my. Are you sure?
After starting with a chapter called White Trash, of course, there had to come another chapter titled like this, Black Trash. They are 2 words that in the United States, you can no longer put together in any book, much less in a book that has in the front cover and the back cover the bad word Donald J. Trump. All the whites can be white trash now by dint of their color, ethnic tautology, the whiteness as irredeemable barbarity. Wow. I take it that you don't like political correctness or hypocrisy.
Well, first of all, this is delicate material. No, I mean, I appreciate your translation, but it's delicate material. Some words may resound in a way or another, but I assume the reading and I assume wherever, no? So this chapter, Black Trash, Basura Negra, ends up dealing with a number of writers, African-American writers. Mm-hmm. Some of them were expelled from the African-American perspective, and even from the communist perspective, because they didn't align exactly, so they were also incorrect. And so I'm dealing with a number of aspects regarding vocabulary, things that can be said, things that cannot be said, the permanent, in my opinion, idiocy with the word fascism. Everything is fascism. This book is fascistic. Right. I have supported fascistic views for saying this and that. Everything is fascism. I just wrote a column for Cyber Cuba right now, coincidentally, saying communism that won the Second World War, that became legal Communist Party in most of the Western civilization. They haven't been able to live in peace without their twin brother, which is fascism. They are both nationalistic. They are both, communism is internationalistic. Fascism was supposed to be nationalistic, but it was internationalistic all the same. Right. And they were simply totalitarian regimes, no? And they cannot live one without the other. And because one is dead, fascism is dead. Is dead. A far right-wing government or far right-wing movement, even if they use a swastika and they worship Hitler, they are not a fascist, and they are not a fascist government. It's a movement that was terminated in history. But that's my perception. I don't want to convince anybody. But suddenly communism, which is kicking, which is alive, there are countries with communist parties, suddenly cannot live without calling the opponent, calling the different, calling their criticals fascistic immediately. Mm-hmm. And so I was also dealing with that. Do you want to call me fascist? Please do. And the book somehow says this, because I don't want to live in fear or not of being labeled. No, please label me. Put the red hot iron upon me. Put whatever you want. I'm not afraid of you. They didn't kept my mouth shut in Cuba. The PC of Cuba didn't achieve that. The political party, Communist Party, PC, didn't do that. And the PC, the political correctness, is not going to do it here. But I may pay a price. I mean, at some point I had some meetings, and not a hearing, but they were trying to understand. I was denounced. My Facebook posts were brought into the attention. So even suddenly I started feeling that I didn't have a private life. I am the writer of this book. I am the writer of many other blasphemies in the political sense, not in the religious sense, because it's not my field and it's not my intention. Can I do that and still do a PhD? Well, the answer, according to the presentism and a number of things that are going on right now, is no. Students will be scared to death. Students will be offended if a person that wrote a column or that expressed some opinion in that platform is also teaching about the beauty of Spanish poetry in the golden century. We don't want to hear from the golden century from you, and I really deplore that. The deplorable, deplore that.
I love that. Let me tell the people that the wordplay in this book is amazing. I mean, it's like each chapter is like a letter, prose, but poetic. I mean, and of course it's in Spanish, but I mean, it's a lot of fun to read as well. I read about one chapter a night before going to bed. You don't have to read it from cover to cover, because there's an index in the back where you can just choose what to read, whatever floats your boat. Let me see. Mm-hmm. Right. So you can just pick which chapter you want to read.
And by the way, my friend, there is also like a name index. We call it onomastico, which indexing names, no? And so in page 157, you will find this index, but I am only indexing my own name and Donald Trump name. So the book has a lot of playfulness. People will say, you are arrogant. You are yes, you don't feel the playfulness. I have like an index. One chapter is like indexing annex, and I'm only indexing myself
Right.
every time that I quote myself. That's playful. Yes, it's narcissistic. Yes, but I don't need you to read the book. Please don't buy the book. I will share the link in Amazon, but if you don't want to buy it, don't buy it. Be pirate my book, doesn't matter. So I'm not begging for a readership. I am begging for the freedom to be playful, to display the. In one of the chapters of my book, I talked to God. I said I was not going to be blasphemous or anything like that. I said to God, please, God, whatever is my fate or my destiny in America, do not take from me the linguistics. Do not take from me, turn me into an instrument of your linguistic, instead of turning me into an instrument of your mercy and your bountifulness or whatever. Turn me into an instrument of your linguistic. I can speak. I still can speak Spanish. Let me use the words and let me deal with hate and with love and with memory and with mercy and with sadness and with violence and with whatever. No, but I know, difficult times, but I don't want the context to define completely my life and my biography, even when I am dealing with the context in the book. But another little comment: the book has a lot of writings that come from real documents, from quotation from the press, and they are smuggled into the book. Some of them are not quoted. They are not. They seem that it's me talking. You can get super angry with me. Write to me a demand, and I will tell you you are getting angry with the Grandma newspaper, or sometimes with the New York Times in my translation. And but you wouldn't think that the New York Times is racist because you read it on the New York Times. But if I say it in my book, then I am racist. And so all that is mixed, maybe in an explosive manner, maybe in a hopefully in a fail way. I love the idea of a writer as a failure, but I am leaving a trace to be understood, or not, if not, to be processed, to be remembered. My maybe January the 1st, 2059, for the 100th anniversary of the revolution. Somebody in Cuba will be saying, maybe we can do something with this. Maybe we can make a rap song, and then we can sing open the book and sing anything, no? And by the way, there are songs in the book. This song, Que empingado es nuestro amor, and I apologize. This is from a song of a cartoon that is online. You can try to Google. If you don't know what's going on, try to Google some of these fragments or whatever you find in my book, and maybe Google will fulfill what is missing in this book, okay? So it's also like an intertextual experiment, leaving for the reader to be a little active. But the readers nowadays, they don't want to be active. They want to be mad. They want to be angry.
I must confess, I had to use my phone a lot while I read your book, trying to look up some references. Let me then transition to an episode in your university career that has to do with this chapter called Blessing the Boss.
Oh my.
Little later, a little after, a colleague denounced me to the university, or accused me to the university, very scared, by the way in which, as she said this in tears, I looked at her with eyes as if they were hands. And then you would have said it much better, mirar a lengüetazos, which I'm not even sure. Lengüetazos talks about the tongue, correct?
It's like a licking.
Oh, okay. So you were looking not with your hands, but with your tongue. Okay. And a little bit later, of I having one foot in the classroom and the other foot homeless in the street, expelled from the university for rape.
Rape, yeah.
Then in YouTube appeared
everything is rape. Yes, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. Then in YouTube appeared the anti-hero that is the most hated by the North American academic left, the lady Betsy DeVos.
Yes.
End quote. Tell me about that. What happened there?
Well, first of all, I'm mixing a number of references in this. I'm talking a little about the Me Too movement. Sometimes I call it I become a little crazy. I'm talking a little about the Title IX. Sometimes I call it Title IX totalitarianism, or sometimes I call it Title 1959 instead of Title IX, remembering the 1959, the year of the revolution in Cuba. So I am fictionalizing my life a lot here. There were some issues going on. Sometimes you talk to a person, you ask the person, where are you from? And the person looks at you and says, where do you think I'm from? Do you ask me because you think I'm not American? Do you think because I look Mexican? And suddenly you get quarreling with a person when you were trying to ask where you are from, no? If there is something with my accent, I'm just asking where are you from. I'm trying to flirt a little with you. I'm trying to get to know you. Where are
That's
you from?
happened to me too.
They ask me all the time that in Uber, taxis, everywhere. But anyway, I am trying to bring here a story of how the image of Betsy DeVos was turned into kind of the evil woman that just wanted school to be closed and wanted to privatize the whole of the education. And of course, she was anti-Me Too, anti-Title IX, which is a disposition that forces some kind of a process, by the way, without any guarantees. The accuser has the right, it has the reason immediately. The one who is accused doesn't have the chance to defend or have a face-to-face conversation because that would be re-traumatizing the victim. Sometimes it's because I asked the time, what time is it? And then you said, I thought I heard what time, sweet? And that's sexual harassment. What time is sweet? No, sorry, I just said what time is it? Is it? No, I heard what time is sweet. And that's harassment because you're a man. And so this kind of man phobia or male phobia, I bring this into the book, but it's more like a fictionalized experience about, little things here and there that I heard in classrooms, sometimes to my colleagues. Some colleagues ended up in a police station, okay, because of a false denunciation. And it's not me saying that it's a false the denunciation, is that the person that filed the complaint later took it back and said, I was jealous. I was angry and I didn't know how to express it.
No, but you had to believe all women,
Yes.
Orlando.
This is the. I'm trying to believe in women. That's what I have been doing my whole life, believing women. So, but that you cannot even say that. You say I believe in women, I like women, and that's worse. You have no winning, no. And so, but this is only like an exaggeration. I say that I wrote to Betsy DeVos an email, etc. So
yes, I saw that.
It goes delirious. The person, if you take this book literally.
Right.
Call 911 or bring somebody, take me to the mental health institution with due respect for mental health institution, and put Orlando there to write the next book. So there should be a playfulness in another chapter before you read it. In another chapter, I say, I know that opening the mail to another person is a federal crime.
That's right.
I need to open that. And so I started to open the mail that was abandoned there for the person that was living in everything. In that case is a fictionalization, but there are some aspects which are true. I saw the mail. I have been receiving mail for another person during over a year, 2 years now, and I start to wonder, maybe I am that other person. If they keep sending bank account information, votation, ballots, everything here, maybe I'm not Orlando Luis Pardo Lazo. Maybe I am the name of that person that used to live here. And maybe that person killed himself here, and maybe I'm the ghost of that person. So again, a fictionalization, trying to make my life a little more connected into a number of literary mechanisms that certainly doesn't avoid political trouble and political correctness fighting. No?
Right. I am. That's so true. I never thought about it that way. When you move into a new place, you still get the old letters from the former residents.
Everything is new to me, my friend. That's the point. That for many people here, everything is normal, but for me, everything is new. Oh my God, when is this going to end? Never, because as long as there are financial system, this person will be receiving information here. This is forever. I need to go to the mail office or something, try to do something, but I would not do that. I can become the other person. That's it.
Yeah. All right. And let me then finally ask you about what you think of the Cuban exile community or the Cuban exile, I don't know, like narrative imagination, like, yes, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I got a lot of solidarity from many people from the historical exile, from recent exile. It's difficult to bring it together. They have suffered a lot, but at the same time, they have been misrepresented a lot by American academics, by American media. They, especially in during democratic terms, so let's forget about that. We are not talking about Republican versus Democrat here. And somehow the rationale that is trying to be passed is, if you want to deal with Mexicans in United States, you need to ask a Mexican. You don't speak for them. But if you need to deal with Cuba, you cannot ask a Cuban in the exile. They don't know. They are full of resentment. And so Americans are trying to bypass the Cuban exile. If you want to talk about poor Haitian people exiled here or from Afghanistan, please talk to the real Afghan guys here in Minneapolis or wherever. They know exactly what's going on. They can represent themselves. They have a voice. But if you want to engage with Cuba and talk about Cuban realities, don't talk to Cuban exiles. They are not Cubans. In an art exhibit of Cuban art in New York, don't invite people from Miami. That's not Cuban art by any means. So the academia is disconnecting, is helping the Castros to disconnect the Cuban exile from the Cuban culture in the island. They don't feel that we can come together despite a lot of essayists, thinkers, painters, writers, musicians. I prefer the espejito, the little mirror from the Indians, to buy Manhattan with the little pieces of mirror from the Indians. So bring me any book written in Cuba. That's the real thing. Of course, maybe I took advantage of that. When I landed in America, I was the native son with a little piece of mirror. My little books printed in Cuba, my dissidents in Cuba, my little blog, everything was in marble.
You were authentic.
Yeah, everything was the authentic with marble, with B, and then with short V. I was marvelous, the real marvelous, no? And so now I have come to understand how paternalistic is that view, how unfair. So I don't want to judge so much about the exile. I have received the solidarity of people that didn't know if I was a good or a bad guy. They didn't know that I was going to write this book. And they opened the doors of their houses. You can stay here for 3 days. You can stay here for a week. I was like that during most of the 2013, 2014. And I was surprised. In Havana, you will not find that. And the other thing, I found a love for Cuban culture that I don't find in Cuba, my friend, in the last decades.
Really?
People took me to rooms like Wunderkammers, like chambers of marvel. Look at this. Long plans, posters, book, old editions. Oh, what is this? I was into tears. No, this is not possible to find in Cuba. We're not even allowed to go to the National Library anymore. You need a permit, like you are a professional researcher or something like that. So why do you treasure this? Do you want to eventually go back to Cuba? Most of them have told me no. This is in my heart. This is an extension of my heart. If Cuba becomes a democracy tomorrow, I don't want my kids to go back. It's too painful for me. So it's like a love, distancing, approachment. It's very complex. And the American press are trying to simplify us. I would say it bluntly, for American press, I mean, I'm making a generalization, we are basically terrorists. We are basically radical wings. We are basically Trump lovers. That's
especially
why
now.
I bring the name of Trump here. Although you don't know if I voted or not for Trump, or if I will vote Republican or not in the future. I just brought it here because you show me the devil. You show me exactly what I cannot do, and you are moving me into that area. I don't want any more intolerance and behaving by respecting the boundaries created by others. I don't like that anymore. So I have no choice but to be very reactive in that sense. I feel playful. I feel happy in my private life. I'm very different from a provocative person. I never go into a quarrel. You can praise Fidel Castro in person. You can praise it right now in your program. And because this is your program, I will respect you and then bring some critical commentaries to you, period. I will not disrupt your program. I am not kind of throwing things against the window panes and things like that. That's not my personality. Now, in literature, I want my writing to break through the windows, clash through, provoke a car accident, If the debacle comes, beautiful. I love debacle because it's literary, and I have the impression that literature, this is a big statement, literature in America is about to die. Is dead or about to die. We read kind of the bestseller narrative. We don't appreciate anymore writers that engage more with the complexities of languages, and we want the big story. Hollywood has contributed to that. So, but let's not be so critical. Maybe I am a man of the past. We started by saying that I'm a ghost. Maybe I'm already inhabiting a future that doesn't belong to me. So let's be humble. You're talking to a dinosaur, my friend, Orlando Luis Pardo Lazo, Saurius, a person that comes from another time, from another rhythm, from a chess era where we used to play 2 hours, 3 hours and listen to music, and time was different. And it's a little difficult for me to get adapted to this multitasking. I'm doing my best, my friend, by talking in this conversation right now, but it's difficult to me to keep at the pace. No,
Gotcha. I think
be merciful with me.
No, this is great. I think we're at the 1 hour mark. We're gonna leave
Yes.
it there. I think that was a great summary, and I would like to thank you first and foremost for your time, and I would like to urge everyone to please buy this book, support Orlando, but also, read it. When I was reading it, I can say that there were nights where I was dead tired, but I had to finish the chapter. I had to find out what else he was going to say. It's that good. It also, sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I cried because it hits home in a lot of ways. Especially for the immigrants and people that may have some nostalgia for their childhood, for their place of birth, for their family, their fathers, their mothers, their neighborhood. It definitely is. I mean, it encompasses so many things. So again, please, I've posted the link to the book on Amazon and Hypermedia. So go right ahead and purchase it. And thank you very much, sir. You've been
Thank
great.
you very much. At some point, I would like to stand. I would. I mean, I am starting to enjoy your YouTube channel. I know you have started recently,
Right.
and I will be, of course, sharing. I am trying to somehow build a community of everybody, connecting with everybody. So we are trying of creating an imagined community. Okay.
Yes. Are you gonna open your own? Do you have your own channel?
I have my YouTube channel, but I'm not doing live broadcast or
Okay.
anything like that. Maybe at some point I will be able to start something when I find something to to be specific, because right now there are so many people doing so many interesting things,
Right.
that that is difficult to find something different. Let's see. Maybe I will be creating a channel to dance in camera.
Okay, why not? I know that you play
Guitar.
music. I've seen you play guitar, some
A
classic
little.
rock songs.
A
So
little. Well,
that's
thank you, my friend. Thank you, and thank you to your audience. And hope that that you can count on me for whatever I may help the distribution and promotion of your channel.
awesome. And you can visit Atlanta anytime. We'll show you a good time and feed you some barbecue. All right.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye bye, sir. Take care. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. The great Orlando Luis Pardo Lazo. I've been wanting to do this interview for a while. It's just been, everything has been so hectic that, it was hard to make the time, but I did it. Hooray. We're moving forward. And let's see. Right. Yesterday, as you probably saw, I was at the Republican election night party, Hold the Line. Unfortunately, we don't seem to have held the line. And right now, from the last I saw in the news, let me refresh here. After the Capitol building was breached by some protesters, Pence and Pelosi have decided to reconvene tonight and carry on with the electoral vote count. But I don't see that any decision has been made, or the official count has been accomplished. Nope. So we'll see. In any case, if at the end of the day, the election results turn out to benefit Biden and he becomes the official next president of the United States, we'll just have to, well, first reform the Republican Party and fight with nail and tooth against the oncoming socialist wave. That's it. Steel yourselves, gird yourselves, gentlemen. It's going down. Much love. Until next time.